So this is a bike I've been excited about because this is a bike that Brooke is looking at to upgrade to in case she wants to upgrade her CB300F. This is the CB500X adventure bike, 2019, with a 19-inch front wheel, single disc, nice dash, very visible. The old dash, last year's dash, was a lot more well, it's actually very similar to Brooke's dash right now on our CB300F. This one's a lot more modern. It's got a gear indicator already on it, tach, your speedo, temperature, looks like fuel consumption as well. Clutch is very light, typical Honda, pulls away very smoothly. First gear is nice and tall. The power is soft, definitely soft power, but it's still going to outrun most cars on the road, and that's for sure. Okay, so this is a taller bike, and it's definitely less powerful than the CB650R that I rode just now, the 4-cylinder. This one's a 471 parallel twin. It has good acceleration, but nothing, nothing to write home about. It's 47 horsepower. And last year's model had a 17-inch front wheel, so this one looks better. It's definitely updated. It's got LED signals. It's got the updated dash. A little nicer looking overall. Better proportions with a 19-inch front wheel. But at the same time, the seat height's a little taller. So I like the little visor over the top of the dash to keep the sun off of it. It is quite visible indeed. This is not a powerful bike. For 471cc, you've got other bikes that make more power with less cc's, but the advantage this bike has over other small bikes is it will make more torque because it's got the bigger engine. Suspension is adjustable front and back, and it's longer travel. The specs are in the description. I don't remember how many inches of travel this bike has, but it's definitely longer than the naked bikes. It's definitely meant for rougher roads. So if you're on rough pavement a lot, or if you're off pavement, then this is the small bike for you. The wind protection is quite impressive for a small bike. Very good wind protection. It's not over revving either. I can put it in 6th gear right now and just cruise at low RPMs. It'll even pull its way out of 2,500 RPM, which isn't bad for such a small engine. So how's it feel in the curves? It's a little wallowy. A little bit more wallowy than the naked bikes. Certainly more wallowy than Ducati Scrambler. A lot more wallowy than the CB650R. But it holds a line nicely. That's a budget bike with really long travel suspension. It's not super fast off the line as far as bikes go. Way faster than most cars, but as far as bikes go, it's definitely, you're not going to win any drag races against bikes with bigger displacement. Even bikes with smaller displacement are probably going to take you off the line. Like, I can't see this beating a Ninja 400. The Ninja is just so much lighter. But the rider buying this bike is not looking for a sport bike. Hit the bumps. Now we check the brakes. Brakes work really well. For a single disc, brake is nice and progressive. Yeah, the initial pull is good, but once you get to the higher revs, it runs out of steam. Now, unfortunately, this thing's got a fairly lofty seat height. If you're looking for a lower seat height, get last year's model. Brooke sat on both bikes, and I got her sitting on both, and she just found last year's model much smaller and more comfortable. Now then, you don't get the LEDs, you don't get this fancy display, you get the old school display. You don't get the 19-inch front wheel, but that's part of the reason the seat height's higher, because the wheel's bigger. It's well behaved. It is definitely a civilized bike. Dare I say, maybe too civilized? It's very smooth. It's very Honda-like. It is smooth. There's just the tiniest bit of vibes through the handlebars right now. I don't think they'll ever get more than just letting you know that there's an engine attached to this thing. I can't see them becoming annoying at any point. Yeah, so it's a nice mellow bike, but it's going to, if you need it to, it'll go. It can get up to speed. It'd probably be on a highway. Of all the small bikes, this would be the most comfortable bike. It's going to be pulling the lowest revs, so it's going to be the least frantic kind of ride with this much displacement. And the weather protection is the best. So for a beginning rider who is looking, maybe someone taller, but doesn't want a bike that's too intimidating, well, this might be the perfect bike for that kind of a rider. And it's got, it's got plenty of power. I'm just spoiled. I've ridden Ducatis and KTMs, and my Moto Guzzi's got over 100 horsepower and all that. So yeah, you get a little spoiled with these big bikes. But this actually feels like a big bike until you rev it out and it runs out of steam, and then you're like, all right. And it actually sounds good. It's got a nice deep sound. It's quiet, but deep. And when you give it, you hear it. That's not a bad sound. Yeah, it's a fun bike. It's not super agile because it's kind of taller. And yeah, it's a little bit taller, so it's not super flickable. I wouldn't say that, but once you got it heeled over in a turn, it'll hold the line nicely. It just won't transition as fast because of the taller center of gravity and the kind of longer, more wallowy suspension. Handles the manhole covers really well, but I mean, it goes over the bumps really well, but there's a little bit of a shimmy when it does. Definitely this thing capable of plenty of fun. Yeah, it gets a little wallowy in the corners at, you know, these higher speeds. It's hitting bumps, but just a little wiggle and you're fine. I've mountain biked before, and I know that a little wiggle doesn't mean anything. I mean, I've mountain biked over stuff that I doubt I could walk over. And that's the beauty of this bike. You could ride over stuff that you couldn't ride on those bikes. Yeah, they're gonna pull away on the road in a straight line, but a good rider can keep up at some pretty advanced speeds. And these adventure bikes are actually the new sport tours. It used to be that everyone was just sport tourer crazy. Honda VFR was the big bike, right, that everyone wanted. Everyone was saying what a perfect bike that was, and all the BMW RT type bikes. And now it's all about the GS's and the Africa Twins and the 500X. The adventure bikes have taken over, and they are built to handle. They're built to handle the twisties. You can hustle these things around at a surprising amount of speed. The only thing I would say, the only criticism I would say I have of this engine is it's a little bland. It's a little bland. It sounds good. The pull is a little soft, and it does run out of steam in no time. It revs out beyond its capacity rather quickly. So, is it boring? Well, you can see those bikes pulling away. So it's not as exciting as the bigger bikes in terms of pure acceleration, but you can certainly hustle this thing around corners. So, what do I think of the Honda CB500X? Well, if you're looking for a small adventure bike, then this is one of your probably only three or so choices. Four choices. The other choices being the Versys 300, the Royal Enfield Himalayan, and the BMW G310 GS. Out of all those choices, this is the bike with the biggest motor and probably the most torque. So that's one good thing about it. You definitely want the motor and the torque. It is a nice looking bike. It is a nice performing bike. The performance won't blow your socks off, but none of the bikes in this category will blow your socks off. It's comfortable over long distance, I would guess. And it's capable of some mild off-roading, although you won't want to be jumping any logs on it. But you can go on gravel, you can tackle some bumpy roads and stuff like that on this bike. So it's a great bike for that. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, I appreciate your support. Like, comment, subscribe, especially subscribe. And may the spokes be with you.